The final round of the 2014 Season 3 IndyCar Road Series powered by Andwern Designs is next here on RaceSpotTV. Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the final round of the 2014 Season 3 IndyCar Road Course Series on iRacing.com motorsport simulations powered by Andwern Designs. Well, Vincent here along with the one and only Oscar Hardwick. Don't forget you can check us out on the 1st and 2nd of November as we bring you coverage of the 24 hours of Spa. Practice has just completed, so it's time then to roll through your starting grid for today's event, and it is going to be, let's sort that one out, on pole position here today, Tommy Nilsson with a qualifying time 1 minute 42.731, Richard Avery starting alongside him on the front row of the grid, Marcus Hamilton and Murren S. Kolak in the second row. And then row 3, Gold Huez and Jonas Nakala, Dinko and Vedran Kuj in row number 4, with Fernando Guerrero Ortega in row number 5, alongside Fabio Milani, Christian Theo Zult and Marcus Johansson in row number 6. Then you got Luis Rodriguez, Munoz Nicolas, Ellis Teal, Mario Viscat and Matthew Beavis for our 17 car field as we get set to go racing here today, Oscar. Or what will be the final race of the season. Always interesting, Road America. You got a couple of good passing opportunities, and of course, push to pass here will be incredibly critical on that 23-lap race.
Yeah, well, push to pass has been something that these guys have had to learn to manage this season, and not something that they have had access to in the past. And at Road America with the big straights, it's all going to be about maximising the time that you're actually using that extra power. 23 laps here. 1 3/4 minute laps. That's going to bring the race in at just around 40 minutes, including what I would imagine would be a pit stop that everyone's going to need to make on the fuel. So should be good. Those front 5 all qualified within 0.3 of a second, so it's going to be mighty good at that end of the field, and it looks pretty close down at the rear as well. So keeping my fingers crossed for this one.
It is, and I think for this guy Tommy Nilsson, we ride along board with him on pole position here today. Pretty good qualifying time there in the Movano XT Thrustmaster car. The number 3 car, of course, looking, if he can get the start of this race done and get himself to an early lead, that will really negate that push to pass advantage. He's got to get himself, though, really a 1 second advantage, I'd say, by the end of that first lap in order to make that happen. Richard Avery, we do know how good he is in open wheel cars, so he will clearly be one to watch. Any of our viewers of our Monday night coverage will be aware of just how good he can be. Don't forget, by the way, you can check out all of our videos on YouTube. If you haven't had the chance to yet watch what happened this past Monday night in the Club UK and Ireland Skip Barber Racing School series, check it out. Oscar, 3 wide, at Sonoma Raceway, lap after lap after lap, in some skip barbers, incredible racing.
I wasn't aware that Sonoma was actually as wide as 3 cars, so that is impressive.
Barbers, so let's be
They are
honest.
skip barbers, that's true.
They only
But at the
measure
same
about
time,
16 inches wide.
at the same time, those things are very sort of slippy through the middle of the corner. They're not as pinpoint as these cars running on the full slick or with stiff suspension, so to hold them 3 wide without throwing each other off the tracks are no mean feat on any circuit, and Sonoma's still narrow even with the skippies on it.
Indeed. Got ourselves a couple of onboards here today. We've got one, first of all, today with Richard Avery in the number 2 car. There you can see him on the outside of row number 1. Got one with the guy starting in 7th position. He's a 2014 ISWC champion, Michael Dinkel, starting in that 7th spot. Also got an onboard today with Marcus Johansson in the number 12 car. And finally got an onboard today with Holgeres in the number 5 car. Now, interesting point here. Earlier this season, Holgeres was actually racing with one arm, broken arm, racing one-handed at Watkins Glen. Still came home with a top 5 finish, Oscar.
Yeah, that's impressive. And when people talk about pulling out all the stops just to get a solid points result in terms of maintaining your season results, like that's one of the things that people that are really dedicated seem to be able to pull out of the bag. I mean, particularly if you're not, I know that there are a lot of people who are used to racing with disability, as you'd say, but to have a broken arm and not to have raced like that before and still come home with a good result is incredibly impressive. And I imagine back then the field was probably larger than the one that we see today as well.
Indeed, so 17 cars working themselves at Road America, working themselves down into Canada Corner. Famous in the 8th row because that's where all the Canadians used to congregate, chucking beer bottles onto the racetrack, which was rather nice of them to do, so you never wanted to go off there. Big gravel trap, no beer bottles there today, so work themselves now into Bill Mitchell Bend, the final corner on the racetrack, as we get set to go racing here today for 23 laps around this exactly 4-mile racetrack. You see the lights are off on top of the iRacing.com first safety car. Don't forget, one more time, ladies and gentlemen, 1st and 2nd of November, me and Oscar, 27 hours of non-stop commentary. You think this is going to be entertaining? Check that one out. Good start there by Tommy Nilsson. This race will start right now, and they're almost free abreast. They come down in towards turn number 1. Really good start by Nilsson. Avery in that 2nd position. He's got himself now a lot of work to do. Nilsson got that jump in the early goings, working on board right now with the guy running himself on the outside. That is Yunus Nakala on the 8th position. He is going side by side with the Vortex Sim Racing car there, Michael Dinkel, and he's going to lose out a position actually to the number 7 car of Michael Dinkel. They remain side by side, so they work themselves down the back straight away.
Yeah, fantastic start, very clean all the way through the pack there, as much as 2 wide, pretty much from the start line all the way around to turn 2, coming down to turn 3 now, and it looks like we've just had a move there. It's Yol Uez, yeah, he's making a move for, I think that's 4th position. He's got it done, so nice job there. Fantastic start.
And we're running aboard then with Pickering Cars, who's actually just been overtaken by Guas as they work themselves now through the hurry down. Car just going a little bit wide there down on the mid-pack. But Tommy Nilsson, what did I say, Oscar? He needs to get himself an early lead, and he has got that. It's currently about 1 second on the racetrack, right in the rear of Tommy Nilsson.
Yeah, it was a fantastic start, really managed to catch the field napping. I don't think that he's really going to have any pace advantage looking at those qualifying times, so it's going to be all about hammering in the consistent laps now if he wants to make a breakaway at this stage in the race.
Federian Card moving himself up into 5th position as Michael Dinkel also making a pass. One driver, I believe that was Pollack, who's in 2 places there in the space of 1 corner, Oscar. Pollack, I think he's got some form of issue because he's dropping down the field. We've got a car off track as well, just at the rear of the field.
Yeah, that was Luis Rodriguez just actually taking some evasive on Kolak. It almost looked as though he's got a sticking brake or maybe a throttle pedal that's not going all the way down at certain points because he was lifting off in what I'd imagine was a flat out section of track, which caused the other driver to go off there.
Yeah, it wasn't actually Rodriguez, it was the number 7 car of Dinkel who went off there. There you can see Rodriguez riding along board with him as Dinkel went off the racetrack. And yes, definitely some issues we think there to Kolak. Let's have a look because his car just doesn't seem to have the rear speed unless he's trying to save some fuel right along board with him. He is dropped down into the 7th place as it stands right now. Working ourselves on lap number 2 of 23, coming down into turn number 5. Doesn't seem to be that any issues that he had, he's got fixed. It's just a very slow lap for him. Potentially just trying to get some heat into those Firestone tyres.
Yeah, it's something that you don't see from the outside necessarily when one of these high downforce open wheelers has a bit of a squirmy moment. You don't necessarily see it from these outside viewing positions, but in the car it feels horrible, so they could well have just gotten out of the throttle a bit, getting Larry in the final sector.
As you say, he's continuing to run in that 7th place right now. We have got a car off the racetrack. That is Luis Rodriguez. They see him spinning as he works himself out of corner number 8. We'll get ourselves a replay of that. It's one of those corners that you will get a lot of drivers all day long having some issues with, and Rodriguez coming down into the corner. Just a very silly spin there.
Yeah, it is a tricky corner and an easy one to make mistakes at, though, with that downhill braking zone and then throwing it hard left. Very easy to sort of get taken in with how wide the exit is, and only to find yourself running out onto the gravel and the grass sort of ends. And we've got a pitter further up the track, and that is Verdan Crowls, I've said that horribly wrong, into the pit lane. So I don't know if that's damage or something else, or maybe even just an early pit stop to get to the end and get out of traffic.
Or potentially a penalty, so we'll keep an eye out on him. We'll see how long this pit stop is, if there's any work done to his car, or whether it's just a black flag penalty for potentially passing before it was time to go. But Carlage is now down into the 17th position on the racetrack. There you can see him as he's going to stop and immediately go. So yes, a stop and hold penalty there for Vedran Carlage, and he's back out onto the racetrack. That's going to completely ruin his race after.
It is indeed, and I think Marcus Hamilton might have made a little error recently. Either that or Yol Guez has had a very good lap and started catching up to the back of him, because that gap was much bigger when I last looked at it.
Running along board then with Yol Guez, his last lap time on 1:45.005, as he's way behind Hamilton actually. Yeah, it's just about 4 tenths of a second. There you can see him. Guez might of course be on the button in the early going as they work themselves out of the carousel, back down toward Canada corner. This is going to be interesting. Let me get a very good indication of the downforce levels for these cars. But Guez had a big wiggle there as he worked himself out the carousel up to over 190 miles an hour as he worked himself down in towards Canada corner. It won't quite be close enough there for Guez.
No, not quite, but he's really getting the hassle on there, pushing Marcus Hamilton either into a mistake or just to make a pass generally.
Yeah, and Hamilton actually ran a little bit wide for Canada corner that time by. That allowed Guez to close back up. Now, turn number 1, it's scary, but you can try and make a pass here. I don't think Guez, though, is going to be close enough in this, the battle for the final podium spot on the racetrack. They work themselves past the start-finish line, and Guez, as you see, not quite close enough, but he's going to maybe just have a run as they work themselves down into turn number 5 next time by. Tommy Nielsen is classified as your race leader, now with a 3-second advantage over Richard Avery. To run through your top 5, it's Avery then with a 2-second advantage over Hamilton as they work themselves down towards turn 5. And this is about what we want to keep our eye out. Hamilton and Guez with about a 4/10 of a second gap right now as we have a look at the rear of Marcus Hamilton from Gold Guez. The gap is down to a couple of tenths of a second. The slipstream is working well there for Guez, but not quite close enough as they work themselves in and out of turn number 5. Then from Guez to Dinkel, of course, Dinkel had a difficult first couple of laps. He is now 2.3 seconds behind Gold Guez in that battle for 4th and 5th place on the racetrack. Field settling down, but the rear of the field, a little bit of side-by-side racing going on. Mario Vazek there is battling with Ellis Teal, battle for position, right along board then with Mario Vazek, but he's not able to make that move over Ellis Teal, and actually running a little bit wide there out of corner number 6. Vlasek at the rear of the field is having a good run though, trying to get past Ellis Teal.
Yeah, he's keeping the pressure on, and it's nice to see right the way through the field here that we've got, you could almost describe them as pairings battling, although there is a 3-way battle going on now, and that's Nakala and Kolak going at it, and it's Milani right behind waiting to pick up the pieces. In fact, there's a change for position there as Nakala gets through. A little bit of contact, I think, made there at Canada corner.
Yeah, and we saw that one on board with Yunus Nakala moving himself up now into the 6th position on the racetrack. There you see Kolak running in the 7th spot on the racetrack, and Milani just behind him as well, right along board with Milani as they work themselves up this start-finish straight. Of course, one of the issues is, Oscar, if you're on the bottom, of course you get that additional horsepower, but if you've got a train of 3 cars, like we see here, you don't really get that advantage out of it, because the car ahead, of course, has got that huge slipstream advantage. As we go back on board then with Milani currently scored in that 8th position, almost running right, and he spins that car down in turn number 2. Just a semi-soft spin there, but he had to take evasive action, and that's now going to put ahead of him Ortega moving himself up into 8th place on the racetrack.
Yeah, I don't think it was so much a brake check as... Oh, and Dinkel's had a problem.
Dinkel's had a
as
problem.
has Hamilton.
Yeah,
I know Hamilton's just moved back.
Hamilton has just moved himself down into 4th place. We're going to get a replay of this one from Gold Gurez as they work themselves down into turn number 5. Gurez on the button, nice and easy, down to the inside. Picture perfect pass there for Gold Gurez as he moved himself up into 3rd place on the racetrack, Oscar.
Yeah, fantastic move. And I mean, he'd sat behind Hamilton for a couple of laps, probably just weighing up his chances as where would be best to make a move. Picked his point and went for it. Nice, clean, easy job done.
They say now Gurez up into that 3rd place on the racetrack, but Dinkel is still running in that 5th position. It is 2 places up from where he started, having himself a bit of an interesting race right now. We did confuse him a little bit earlier on with this guy, Christian Theo Zulk. Now Zulk's the one who was in all of that action in the early going, as we see a couple of cars pushing up dust on the exit of Canada Corner, right along board then with Theo Zulk. Started 11th, running in the top 10 right now in the number 7 machine, but he did struggle. He's still struggling there with oversteer out the final corner.
I wonder if there was maybe a tiny bit of contact when he took that evasive early on, and if that's not maybe upset the handling of the car slightly. Because you are right, his car's looking really twitchy compared to the others around him.
As you see, work themselves back down in towards turn number 1. We're going to step aside for just one moment and we will be right back. So then, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Road America. Tommy Nilsson is still classified as your race leader. Last lap time, 1 minute 44.144. That was 1.4 seconds faster than Richard Avery, Oscar.
It was, and I'm not sure if Avery's just cruising or if Tommy Nilsson really is just absolutely on it. I mean, those times, not only is that 44.1 quicker than what anyone else is doing by quite some margin, but he has been pumping in times like that since the beginning of this race, as he now enters lap 7, so, and another 44.1. So it's blistering speed and consistency being shown off at the front here by Tommy Nilsson. Not to take away from Avery's performance, although it does look like he's now getting reeled in just a little bit by Joel Gurez. Although last lap they did set pretty much identical lap times, as Dinkel's looking at Hamilton for 4th. So Hamilton moving back through the field at the moment, not seemingly on the pace of the others around him.
Yeah, as we're having a look from the rear then of Marcus Hamilton out of turn number 2. Now the thing for Dinkel is, he did try and make that pass into 1, wasn't anywhere near close enough to make that pass, but Oscar, still doing a good job there is Marcus Hamilton.
Yes, a very good job. Like, you can't knock yourself for running around in 4th position in what is a very tricky race. And looking further back, Verdan Crouch, after that drive-through, has been having some problems. Looks like he's got some damage and is now retiring from the race. So we have lost one of our drivers.
We have indeed our first driver out of the race. There you see the battle for 4th place on the racetrack. Marcus Hamilton and Michael Dinkel. That one continues on the racetrack as Dinkel will ride along board of him through the carousel. Lap number 7 of 23 here at Road America. Dinkel using an awful lot of that grass on the inside of the carousel. We saw that on that on board. He's got to be careful because you can loop the car around if you try and take too much of that grassy surface. But as they work themselves down into Canada again, Michael Dinkel nowhere near close enough to make a pass that time by. Now behind, we've got Milani trying to close up to the rear of Fernando Ortega. So right along board now with the second Movano X-Team car here of Milani. He started this race in the 10th position, now running in 9th spot, Oscar. Trying to put pressure on Ortega, but not really doing much at the moment.
Not at the moment, and I'm wondering if maybe he's got a few tyre issues or maybe even just confidence issues after that spin on the brakes behind, who was it? It was Kolak earlier on. He was certainly quicker than Kolak at that point, but seemingly just sort of running in formation with the two in front at the moment. I wouldn't be surprised though if maybe the pace comes back to Milani in a few laps time, or maybe later on in the race and he starts moving past them again.
And you see this is the battle for essentially 6th, 7th and 8th spot on the racetrack. There you see Jonas Nakala, who's been able to move up now into a little bit of clean air ever since he got himself past Kolak a little bit earlier on. He's starting 6th, still running in that 6th position. Not a bad run so far for Jonas Nakala in that number 10 machine.
No, he's doing a very good job. In fact, the last lap he was lapping about 3 to 4 tenths quicker than the two in front as well. Well, substantially quicker than Dinkel, but I think Dinkel's ruined his lap a bit with that move into the first corner, but still a few tenths quicker than Marcus Hamilton, so maybe one to keep an eye on here is going to be Nakala in the next few laps. He starts to latch onto the two in front and get involved in that battle for 4th.
And behind, we've still got the battle going on between Ortega, there you see him on your screen, and Milani. The gap between those two drivers, it's about 6 tenths per second as it stands on the racetrack, as we're having a look from the rear of Fernando Barrea. Ortega in the number 6 car. The name's so long, Oscar, it breaks our overlay.
I mean, there's always going to be one. These overlays, great though they are, sometimes not quite accommodating everything that the sim's throwing at it, and I guess one thing that does quite frequently cause some damage is particularly long names, but Ortega doing a fantastic job at the moment, running in 8th position, keeping the pressure on Kolak pretty good at the moment, and he's got a lot to think about, putting pressure on the guy in front, and he's also got Milani right in his mirrors, so the fact that he's turning those consistent lap times is very impressive because he's under a lot of pressure from both directions.
Yeah, and as we get closer to that firm one and only pit stop here, this is going to be one battle as the cars just work themselves behind the trees. This is going to be one of those battles that we're definitely going to have to keep an eye out on, because it will really come down to how well these guys can get on and off of their pit box.
Oh, big off in the final corner. That's Matthew Beavis has gone off. It looks like he lost it well before the final turn, slid across the grass and into the tyre barrier. So that's our second driver that's DNF'd, I think.
Yeah, as we're having a look then to see what happened, we'll ride along board with Matthew Beavis out of Bill Mitchell Bend, and what he did is he tried taking that Bill Mitchell Bend, used that runoff on the exit of the corner, and that just completely unsettled his car, Oscar, as he came down into that final corner. Of course, we know there is a change in the asphalt in that final corner as well, but I think it just caused a huge bump there. Bill Mitchell Bend just pushing that car a little bit too hard, caught the curb, and then as he tried to reset the car, it just basically darted to the right, took the inside of the final corner and straight into the tyre barrier.
Yeah, shame, but sometimes when you start pushing the track limits like that, it will punish you and cause you some issues. A battle I think we're going to have to look at soon, though, is going to be Yol Guez, who is catching rapidly up to the rear end of Richard Avery, so we could very soon see a battle for second. Yol Guez has been in a right old charge today, starting in 5th position and currently lapping quicker than, in fact,
Avery's in.
Over the last couple of laps. Oh, Avery's in.
Yeah, Avery's in at the conclusion of lap number 10. So Guez will go past him. So Richard Avery is the first one of our front runners to actually make a pit stop. He's onto pit road. 45 miles an hour is pit road speed here at Road America. And what I was trying to allude to before that off is that pit road entry here is incredibly difficult. It seems easy. It's uphill, and you try and brake as late as you possibly can, but you do get the occasional speeding penalty here.
Yeah, you certainly can do, and in behind him as well is Christian Thilo-Zook, and he was, his car looked really leery everywhere, and like you say, bit of a deceiving pit entrance here, because you do go up that hill very easy to brake on, but if you're still braking when you get to the top of it, it crests quite badly, and you can lose the car and cause yourself some damage hitting the pit wall, as Richard Avery rejoins the race in 9th position, just behind Mario Vlasic and Munoz Nicholas. So a bit of traffic for him to work his way through there on these new, well, possibly new tyres, but certainly heavier fuel.
And Theo Zulch is out of pit road as well, down in the 15th position, but for him, he has got plenty of gap to the car ahead of him. And here's confirmation of where Richard Avery is. He has got some traffic, as that is Mario Vlasic there in the 11th spot. Now this is really going to hurt Richard Avery, because he needs some clean air, and he's got 2 cars to try and get past. They're going to be light on fuel at this stage of the time, and they are going to be a little bit faster than him in the straight line anyway. And of course, Guez, we know that he was lapping faster than Avery up until that stage of the race. So Guez has got a shorter pit stop to do than Avery. Avery's got traffic. This is really going to make the Englishman's next couple of laps incredibly tough here, which you can see being held up a lot there by the slower cars at the carousel.
Yeah, and Guez not in either, so all of these laps that Guez is completing at the moment, whilst Avery is stuck in that traffic, is just helping him out. They're going to be faster times when you're stuck behind someone. It's tricky to pass, and you can see he's still stuck behind Vlasic's Richard Avery as they come through Canada Corner.
Yeah, and we won't really be able to get a representative lap time right now, but we will note this one down as Avery's actually a little bit loose there through Bill Mitchell down into the final corner. He arguably needs to push this time by. Does the lap traffic? They're going to pit road. Yes, one of the cars do come into pit road, so that makes life a little bit easier as Vlasic does pit. But Richard Avery in that number 1 car now's got a little bit of clean air, but he needs to push. That was a 2-minute 10 out lap for him there, so we need to bear that one in mind when we see other cars come into pit road.
We saw another couple of cars come onto pit road that time by. It was Ortega and Milani, and they leave as they entered. And it, in fact, looks like Ortega's pulled a bit of a gap on Milani with that pit stop. So, good job there.
Yeah, Milani was about 7 tenths of a second slower on his pit stop, so that is the reason why Ortega's a little bit further ahead. Now, Milani needs to try and push. Of course, he did have that soft spin a little bit earlier on, so he's going to have to be careful on this set of tyres as well, so he doesn't over-push it and make exactly the same mistake, but he's going to try and catch up to the rear of Ortega. This is now the battle for 12th spot on the racetrack. Marcus Hamilton's working himself down and out of Canada Corner. You just see ahead is Guez as we're now approaching the halfway stage of this race.
Nielsen pits.
As Nielsen is onto pit road, and there you see confirmation. Tommy Nielsen from the race lead on towards pit road. And
Hamilton follows.
And Guez then will go to the race lead. He will be officially classified as the leader at the line. So Guez now leads the race, but Nielsen is onto pit road. You've also got yourself Marcus Hamilton onto pit road. So guys are now starting to feed onto pit road because you've got Dinkle in as well. You've got Kolak on pit road. Nakata will stay out that time by. So we've got a split strategy here. A couple of laps difference potentially, as let's get the clock up for Tommy Nielsen. As it's going to be somewhere around the 8-second range. We expect 7.8 seconds out and away there for Tommy Nielsen. Marcus Hamilton into his pit box as he's going to get himself 4 fresh tyres. Top up the race field towards the end of this race. A longer stop, very long stop. 9.5 seconds there for Hamilton. Kolak into his pit box as you can see Dinkle just coming out. 7.8 second stop there for Dinkle, and it's going to be a 9.4 second stop there for Marin Kolak. So a couple of these guys are actually almost 2 seconds slow on their pit stops. Kolak is the big loser there, I think, as we come out of pit road.
Yeah, he's lost 2 positions to Ortega and Milani. Remember, he was the front of that 3-car train, and the now 4-car train led by Ellis Teal, who I believe hasn't made a pit stop yet. So Ortega, yeah, big winner there. Not only did he pull a bit of a gap on Milani, but he made that move past Kolak through the pit stops.
Munoz Nicolas from 13th place now back onto the racetrack. 9.5 second stop for him. So you see him just coming back out onto the racetrack. Luis Rodriguez as well, 8.8 second stop. We are keeping an eye out, of course, to see whether Guez will come onto pit road this time by. He works himself out that final corner. Will he dart to the right-hand side? No, he stays out to do another lap, Oscar.
Well, this is really impressive then, given his pace early on. Like, I'd imagine that means he's been running heavier fuel than the guys around him. And if he can maximise the pit stop and use the fuel advantage he's got to get a bit of time, then I think you could see him coming out really close to Avery after his, well, not particularly slow stop, but certainly not rapid one either.
And again, let's not forget, Avery had some issues with some traffic on his outlap. It was a 2-minute 10 outlap for him. Now, Ortega did a 2-minute 10 outlap as well. So these are some of the things that we need to keep in mind. Tommy Nielsen's outlap, we'll get confirmation as he comes past the finish line. 2-minute 10.1. So Avery arguably didn't lose as much as we potentially thought he would have done.
No, of course it might depend slightly as well on where in the pit lane he is. And in fact, Avery at the moment lapping substantially quicker than Joel Guez. So it's all going to come down to how quick Guez is in the pit lane. Yeah. Compared to Avery, because at the moment he is losing time hand over fist on the track.
Marcus Johansson, 9.6 second stop for him. He is back out and away onto the racetrack. Now Guez's last lap time was a 1 minute 45.272. Compare that to his fastest, he's lapping about 7 tenths of a second slower than what he was doing earlier on in this race. Wait?
Yeah.
Jonathan
one thing that I would be concerned about for Guez here is he losing enough time? Because obviously we're talking about him in a battle with Avery, But Hamilton and Dinkel are not far behind Avery, and they too are going to be on their fresh tyres and new fuel and setting good laps now. So he could even come under threat to losing positions to both of those, as Dinkel again seems to be quicker than Hamilton in this early part of the stint.
Guez is in then. So at the conclusion of lap number 13, Guez is on towards pit road. There you see confirmation as he works himself 45 miles an hour. He's led now a total of 2 laps. It will be 3 as he comes past the start finish line. Guez leading the way here at Road America. We expect him to come out somewhere in P2, P3, P4. We'll have to keep an eye out as Nakala is also on towards pit road. There you see Nakala just on your screen there coming onto pit road. So Guez then into his box. Let's keep a look at the pit time as Tommy Nilsson will go past in just 1 moment's time. In fact, he's already done so. Guez, it's a 7.8 second stop. He is out and away. Now let's see where Avery's going to be. Avery's just going to be just behind, as you will get confirmation there. Is Avery Guez managed to get the job done?
So obviously he gained enough time either with aggressive pit lane entry or just the laps prior to the pit stops and really got the job done. Like, that's a solid, what, 6-7 gap, and I'd imagine now he's got the slightly fresher tyres and he was quicker beforehand, so we might even see him start to pull away.
Nakala does an 8.1 second pit stop. We're having a look at Milani, just a couple of attempts behind, right along board with him in the Movano X Team car. Coming down towards turn number 5, that is Ortega ahead of him. Now Ortega is going to need to move up about 2 positions in that sequence of pit stops. Milani is behind right now. Great stop there by Ortega, as we get confirmation now of 2 places since where he started this event.
Indeed, and now also Marcus Hamilton seems to be making the gap widen up to Michael Dinkel just behind him, so I think that battle might subside for a while. It'll be interesting to see how quick Avery is going to be running compared to Joel Guez at this time as well, and I think it's safe to say Tommy Nilsson maintained his gap pretty nicely and is going to carry on in the lead.
Yeah, Marcus Hamilton to Michael Dinkel, it's about a 1 second gap right now. 1:44.9 last time by Hamilton, 1:45.0 for Dinkel. Just losing a tenth or so of a second, but your race leader remains Tommy Nilsson. There you will see the gap. Actually, that's not the gap you'll see it at all. Going past the start finish line. Tommy Nilsson back officially to the race lead here at Road America as he works himself back down in towards turn number 1. Now there is Joel Guez. There you can see Richard Avery right behind. Gap between those drivers is about 9 tenths of a second on the racetrack. Last time it was a 2:08.8 outlap there for Guez. That was phenomenally quick.
Yeah, I wonder if the clean air and the Richard Avery breathing down his neck sort of inspired him to find a bit of extra time on that one.
As we ride along board then with Richard Avery as they work themselves down towards turn number 5. Now, these top 2 drivers still separated by 10 seconds just on the racetrack. Avery last time by 1:44.784. That was only a couple of attempts away from his fastest lap of the race. You can see with that oversteer moving the car around the racetrack, Avery is pushing right now.
Yeah, and now is the time to push, well past half distance in this race, and Avery needs to get in front, and because as soon as you are in front, you are the controlling driver in that battle. You can throw the defensive lines, it's you that forces the other person to the outside and the inside. At the moment, he seems quite a bit slower through the carousel to me there. Maybe his line just not quite as optimised or running less downforce compared to Joel Guez. It lost a little bit of time. Be interesting to see what their times are now when they get to the end of the lap and Joel Guez has actually completed his first flying lap after his pit stop.
Ortega is under pressure right now from Milani in the battle for the 6th and 7th position on the racetrack. We're right along board with Fabio Milani in the number 13 car. Not going to be quite close enough, and you've got Jonas Nakala right behind him as well. Milani's going to try and slow it down the inside, messes up the corner, doesn't get the chance to do so, and what this is going to do is actually going to allow Nakala right behind him as they work themselves through Bill Mitchell Bend down towards that final corner. A great free-race scrap, Oscar, in that battle for 6, 7 and 8 on the racetrack.
It really is, and Ortega with his pit stops may be feeling a little under pressure from faster drivers behind, but doing a fantastic job at the moment. And again, he's just sort of putting his car in the middle of the track down the straights, making them think a bit too hard about which way they're going to go, and that's what made Milani maybe think about that move going into Canada Corner that obviously wasn't going to work. Last time by, Joel Guez actually well, not fastest man on the track, but half a second almost quicker than Richard Avery. So, yeah, Guez from 5th is going to start pulling away now and solidify that second position that he's got through the pit stops.
And this is remaining the battle for P6, 7 and 8 on the racetrack. Ortega from Milani from Nakala. As you can see, down to the inside wood, just dummy Milani there. And he wasn't anywhere near close enough to make that pass. But what he's doing, trying to pressure Ortega into a mistake right now. And it's a strategy, of course, that these drivers are very used to doing. Of course, what we don't know is how many uses of the push to pass there are remaining as we are getting close now to the 5 to go warning.
Yeah, and one thing that I think is worth pointing out is just how well Ortega seems to be doing under pressure. He's not overdriving, he's not throwing his car around, he's just holding his lines and setting some laps. Really not pressuring himself into mistakes, letting Milani do all of the work involved in making a pass. And again, there seemed to just capitalise a bit on the exit of the carousel, did Ortega, and get enough of a gap that he's not under pressure into Canada corner. Although Milani is, and that's Nakala straight up the inside. Great move late on the brakes there.
Amazing stuff there. You see Nakala now up into P7. Let's get ourselves a replay of that. It was down his Canada corner. We were just having a look at the Rodriguez there, trying to make a pass. So we'll cut back to this. We'll have a look on board. This is with Jonas Nakala. You see just on the overspeed there, down into Canada corner. Actually, originally it was Milani who braked later. Nakala just so good at slowing that car down that he was able to just keep that inside line working perfectly for him. Moves himself up one place on the racetrack, now to P7, Oscar.
Yeah, fantastic move, and with the confidence to throw the car down the inside like that, you've got to fancy his chances when he catches up to Ortega, which I imagine he will do in the very near future.
Yep, and to run through then your top 10, it is still Tommy Lee Nielsen who leads away. 9.2 second advantage now to goal Guez. Guez in the second place with a 2-second advantage over Avery. We'll come back to that one in one moment's time. Avery then with a 5-second advantage over Marcus Hamilton, who runs himself in the 4th place on the racetrack. There you can see Hamilton. Dinkel running in P5 as it stands. Ortega in 6th place. Then it's Jonas Nakala in 7th. 8th place is Fabio Milani. 9th place is Marin S. Kolak. And then to round out your top 10, it is Christian Theo Sulks. We still got ourselves a total of 15 cars circulating in today's race, Oscar. Just 2 retirees. It's Rodriguez, again, very close to the rears, riding on board of him, down to the outside, so they come down in towards turn number 5. And this is the second time in a row that Rodriguez just doesn't really push it too much in the corner. I'm not sure whether Rodriguez is just happy to stay there or whatever, because this is the second lap in a row. He gets alongside and he just doesn't have the braking capacity.
No, and again, his car was twitchy early on, and he moved back a bit from where he was starting, I seem to remember. So maybe struggling, and like you say, it just looks like a lack of confidence at the moment. The car is okay, and in fact, we've got a pass going on now as Marcus Johansson makes a lovely move through the final corner to get past Christian Thilo Zook, but it looks like Zook's going to immediately come back at him heading towards turn 1.
Yeah, riding on board then with Zook, and you can see the defensive line at play there. Let's get ourselves a replay of this one. It was out of, let's say, the final corner. We'll have a look on board then with Christian Thilo Zook. As you can see, alongside will go Tommy Nielsen, and that pass really set up, because I think Zulks actually had a bit of an issue down into that final corner, Oscar.
Yeah, and Ortega as well has just let Nakala go. He didn't put up a fight at all, in fact lifted off a bit early into the braking zone. So Nakala up into what is now 6th position, and Ortega once again under pressure from Milani.
Right, well, I think we found out what the issue was for Theo Zulks. We'll ride back on board of him, because the issue was actually for Bill Mitchell then, his second driver to have issues here. I remember back in the 16th Street race last year, Joe Branch had a huge moment down at Bill Mitchell Ben. But that is what happened to Christian Theo Zulks, which moved him down a position. Now what we'll do is we'll stay on replay, but we'll go then to have a look at Ortega, because there you can see at this point in time, he is ahead of Nakala, and then they work themselves down towards turn number 5. You're right, Ortega just allowed it.
Oh, and contact Milano Ortega.
So we'll come back to that one in just one moment's time. So this is the replay of Nakala getting past, made it very easy there. Did Nakala, on Ortega, but let's then go and have a look to see what happened with Ortega.
Yeah, I think it was just Milani getting a bit over-ambitious down into Canada, and then gave a little tap there to Ortega, but didn't push into it, didn't try to take advantage, did lift out as soon as he realised his mistake, and I don't think there was any real damage done in that incident.
Yeah, so
Milani, obviously the faster driver.
With Fabio Milani on the O-speed down into the corner, and yeah, there was some contact there, some big contact. Did push car of Ortega wide. I'm just wondering now how much damage is going to be to that front wing of Fabio Milani.
Yeah, surely there's going to be a little bit, so he's going to start experiencing some push on the front end. In fact, I just saw a bit of it there, just as he gets to the exit of the corner, the nose now pushing out more than it was doing before. So this, in fact, might work to Ortega's advantage as he just continues to pump out laps and hopefully doesn't have any particular damage on his rear end.
So we'll keep an eye on this battle in the latter stages of this event. But there you can see Ortega with a 3 tenths of a second advantage. We'll have a look there from the rear of Ortega. Of course, this is that point where if you've got any push to passes left in 5 laps to go, you might try and use them. But Milani lost 3 tenths of a second in the carousel. He clearly does have a little bit of damage.
Yeah, and we've lost Teal from this race as well. Looks like he had an incident just a few moments ago. He was in pit lane and he's escaped from the track.
Yeah, so Ellis Teal classified as out of the race. We'll see whether we can find anything that happened to him. Doesn't look like we can. So we'll try and see if we can find anything out. But yet Teal is classified as out of the race. Nothing to see there, Oscar.
No, apparently not. But a shame, of course, to see people DNFing. I think that's 3 that we've lost now.
4. Rodriguez,
4.
Teal, Beavers and Kroll are all classified as out of the race. 13 cars still circulating on the racetrack. We're riding along board then with Milani. And all of them are still classified in the lead lap. Now, of course, it is one of the longest laps that these guys will do all season long. Probably arguably the only one that's longer this season will be Circuit Spa-Francorchamps. So that means that you don't have to worry about traffic as much as you would do at some other tracks.
Yeah, traffic not really looking to be an issue for anyone here. I mean, yeah, Munoz Nicholas, who's currently running around in the 13th and final position of cars still on the tracks, got pretty much a full half a track between him and Tommy Nilsson. So not a gap that's going to be bridged before the end of this race.
Gurez, his last lap at 1:44.9, Avery at 1:44.6 as they work themselves down towards Canada corner once again. Now actually, Avery was always a little bit faster in that second half of the run. We saw last time by that the gaps were pretty close together. So Gurez, I think he needs to just get a move on. If Avery's got any push to passes left, again, this will be the time to start using them. Although Avery did lose about 2 seconds there on that run down to Bill Mitchell Bend, 2 tenths of a second even.
Yeah, just a bit wide exiting Canada corner and couldn't get the power down as he was out on the gravel, so lost a bit there. But like you say, if he gets on the push to passes down these straights now, he could really start to reel in Gurez, not just by, say, 3 tenths a lap, but half a second, maybe 7 tenths, and then there would be possibly contention for the second position in this race right on that final lap.
So Ortega, there you can see him on the racetrack, and one more time there you can see Ellis Teal down in the 15th place on the racetrack. Minus Kolak is still running himself in the 9th position. He is down 5 spots though since the race started, and Kolak just not having a good day. Of course, we saw him off the track in the early laps, Oscar, and ever since then he's just not recovered. His last lap was 1:45.6, 4 tenths of a second slower than his fastest lap of the race, and he just hasn't had the speed on race day.
No, I do think that he was maybe, or is still nursing some issues, maybe with his wheel or the setup or something, because certainly in the early running, some of those moments where he was out of the throttle at fast parts of the track were pretty concerning and did sort of reek of a technical issue as opposed to a driver issue.
And an interesting point, Tommy Nilsson, the gap between himself and Gurez, is now down to 5.1 seconds on the racetrack. Last time by, a 1:46.0 for Tommy Nilsson, right along board with him. And the gap is now down to under 5 seconds. Nilsson, I think, might be saving fuel here.
Yeah, and again, it's something that you'll do in this position to build the gap, have the light car to run the laps early on. And remember, Nilsson pitted earlier. Did he? No, yes, he did pit earlier.
He pitted earlier by about 2 laps, and there you'll see Gurez right along board with him. The gap to the race lead is now just 4.4 seconds on the racetrack, and he's losing so much time on the straightaways there. Tommy Nilsson is fuel saving last time by 146.6 with
2 second gain.
Yeah,
from Guez.
2 second gain. This is going to be a photo finish almost.
And that, of course, is if Tommy Nilsson even has the fuel to get to the finish at this stage. This seems to be some pretty excessive fuel saving to be losing that much time per lap, and I think Joel Guez has seen that and has absolutely pinned the throttle. He's pulling away from Avery again at quite a rate of knots and setting times not dissimilar to the ones that he did at the start of his stint on new tyres.
Yeah, there you can see Nilsson. There you can see Guez. Gap between himself and Avery is last time by. Avery was actually a little bit faster. The gap is currently 3 seconds on the racetrack, but the gap to the race lead is 4.2 seconds. Now, whether Nilsson just needed to save a little bit, we're not quite sure. But as they work themselves down in towards the carousel once again, we'll keep that gap to leaders ticker going along at the bottom of your screen. I see whether or not Nilsson loses anything here, but Guez did have to check up in the middle of the carousel pretty heavily there, so that will negate any advantage as they work themselves down. Again, look at the fuel saving. There's at least about 2 tenths, 3 tenths of a second, 4 tenths of a second down in this run to Canada corner. Nilsson is definitely saving fuel.
Guez is on the push pass. There's about 13 km/h advantage to Guez going down the back straight there. So it's pretty incredible to be pulling that much speed advantage over someone down the straights. And if you think about the length and the number of the straights here at Road America, that's going to be absolutely destroying Tommy Nilsson.
1 minute 45.5 last time by for Nilsson. The white flag is out. One more lap to go. Gap is 3.6 seconds. Now, Nilsson, I did just have a listen to his engine note. He was definitely short shifting. Guez, of course, on the push to pass, using everything he has left. But the thing is for Nilsson, he can't use push to pass, because what does that do, Oscar? It opens up the fuel tank a little bit more. It gives you more horsepower. That is the last thing you need.
Yeah, at the moment he's got to be absolutely teasing it as the two of them in the same shot coming down the back straight here. And much closer than I think Tommy Nilsson would have liked after that huge gap he built up early on. And he's running right into the corners, and that shows that he's not shifting down as many gears. He's staying in higher gears through the corners as well. So this fuel saving really quite serious at the moment.
The final half a lap then of the season at Road America, it will come down possibly to whether or not Nilsson has enough fuel to make it to the line. And Oscar, one thing we do know, it's an uphill finish. If you run out of fuel on the way up, you're rolling right back down again.
Yeah, he's going to want to have a good amount of momentum out of the final corner, no matter what. So, be interesting to see. And again, he's still fuel saving, so it must be marginal.
Yeah, and then you see Nilsson, he actually almost lost it there down at the King. He was just saving so much fuel. That car got a little bit loose, and the gap is down to 2.4 seconds as they work themselves into Canada for the final time. Will Tommy Nilsson have enough to make it to the line? Of course, if you roll up the hill and you don't make it, it will be game over. He'll finish down in 13th position. But for the final time then, Tommy Nilsson will work himself up the final corner. It's 1.8 seconds. Does Nilsson have enough? It does look as though he will do. He will work himself towards the start-finish line. Tommy Nilsson just holds on to take victory here at Road America from Joel Guez by 1.7 seconds.
Yeah, and it looks like Avery also went into a bit of a fuel save mode at the end there, setting some much slower laps and falling away hugely from Joel Guez. Hamilton catching up to him quite a lot as well, and Dinkel coming home in a very respectable 5th position after hassling Marcus Hamilton for most of the race.
Yep, so there you see your top 5 as they've worked themselves past the start-finish line. Jonas Nakala comes home in the 6th position. Ortega just come past the line in 7th spot. Milani 8th, Kolak 9th, and Christian the Assault rounds out your top 10. But that was very close at the end there, Oscar.
Yeah, much closer than we imagined after that huge gap that Tommy Nilsson pulled out in the first stint.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to have a look at your final race results. And it was here today, when all was said and done, Tommy Nilsson taking victory by 1.7 seconds over Joel Guez, Richard Avery in 3rd, Marcus Hamilton in 4th, Michael Dinkel in 5th, Jonas Nakala in 6th, Fernando Guerrero Ortega in 7th, Fabio Milani in 8th, Marian S. Kolak in 9th, and Marcus Johansson round out your top 10. Fastest lap of the race by some margin was Tommy Nilsson, 1 minute 43.8 in today's event. Then you can see the rest of the field. Christian Diaz Schultz Mario Vlasek and Munoz Nicolas all classified there on the lead lap. It's only showing 2 retirees for some reason, but we do know that there is 4 retirees in today's event, Oscar.
Yeah, I imagine it's because of the distance completed by one of those retirees and maybe got classified, but still, shame for those guys to fall out of the race. None of them running particularly far at the field, although veteran Crouch obviously did a bit early on and had his drive-through issues. Great race today, everyone keeping it close, lots of good battles going on. I think part of the race probably has to go to Eunice Nakler down into Canada corner on Milani. It was such a fantastic move to hold that car on the inside as well as he did at that speed, so fantastic stuff there. And Joel Guez obviously driving through the field to finish that close to the leader. Fantastic stuff, really exciting to watch, and I guess a fantastic season all round for the guys in the IndyCar.
Oh, indeed so, and don't forget, there is plenty more action coming your way on RaceSpotTV. We continue along with IndyCars this Sunday with the 3rd round of the 16th Street Racing League from Phoenix International Raceway. Start time for that will be 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And if you want some more Skip Barber action, well, that will be returning next season. We've also, of course, Oscar, got a little thing of 27 hours of non-stop broadcasting to do. We start with the 1st round of the 2014 Pro Series of Road Racing, and then after that, it's a 24 hours of Spa here on RaceSpotTV.
Yeah, it's going to be fantastic.
You and me, a couch, take out food, 24-hour race. It'll be entertaining. Don't forget, you can check out qualifying of that update on RaceSpotTV's Facebook group. This has been a RaceSpotTV presentation of the IndyCar series on iRacing.com, powered by Andwern Design. What an incredible season it has been. Congratulations to today's winner, Tommy Nilsson, for claiming an emphatic victory. Myself, Will Winton, and Oscar Hardwick, we will talk to you all next time.